Tell me when you hit record.
Go for it.
All right, thanks everybody for watching this recording here. My name is Joe Burgett. I'm with Dhaval, Gajjar, and we're authors of the paper evaluating the use of unmanned aerial systems to perform low slope roof inspections. Next. All right, so we don't have a lot of time here, so I just kind of want to go from a high level. So drones have just literally taken off in 2016. Part 107 literally opened the skies up for drone uses under 55 pounds, and there's been tons and tons of use cases out there in terms of where this technology can go. It's been used for surveying, inspection, emergency management, just a whole host of different things. And one of the things that we want to take advantage of is seeing if this technology could be used as a substitute for roof inspections. And Dr. Gajjar, in a previous life, was a roof inspector and is a subject matter area expert in that area. So we're going to combine our skills and fly a drone around a building and then see what kind of defects that we could find, as opposed to going up on the roof and doing it the traditional method. Go ahead and hit the next slide, Dhaval. All right, so methodology is pretty straightforward here. So first we selected a roof, and there's some criteria that we looked for there, which I'll unpack. Then we had to select the equipment and then software, and largely this was just convenient because of what we already had in our shop. Then we created a 3D model and did an inspection of the roof with the 3D model, and then we did an in-person inspection. So kind of comparing two different methods there, and then did an analysis in terms of what we could see and what we couldn't see. Go ahead and hit the next slide. All right, so in terms of selecting the roof, really this was a convenience sampling. This is, we picked a building that was on campus, so we had control over it. We were looking for a roof that was easily accessible so that we could do get access inspection. We want a roof that was relatively aged so that it had a good amount of inspection or a good amount of defects for us to actually be able to find. Wouldn't really do much use if we had a brand spanking new roof and everything was perfect anyway. We want some stuff that has some defects and a range of defects so we could see what we could see. Go to the next slide. So the software equipment we use is twofold. So there's the hardware and the software. We use two unmanned aerial systems, both of them manufactured by DJI. The first one is that white drone, which you probably see often in the news, usually in a bad way, flying around doing something bad. Well, that's the Phantom 4 Pro. It's got a 20 megapixel camera. It's a really high performing, low cost drone, about $2,000. And that was good we used that to create our base level models. So we flew it up and down in a lawnmower pattern, use a pre-programmed app to capture images at 70% overlap. And we use that to create kind of the base model of the roof. And then we supplemented some high resolution images that we captured with the M210. The M210 is the airframe, and then we equipped it with the Zenmuth Z30 30 times optical zoom camera. So that's just basically a telescopic zoom camera where we were able to fly far away from the building, but be able to zoom into specific areas that were commonly locations of defects, capture some high resolution images to supplement that with the base model. We then dumped them all into a software package called Context Capture. It's one of the leading structure from motion softwares. It's right there with Pix4D, PhotoScan. It's manufactured by Bentley, so it's a big user in the DOT world, which is my connection to it, my work with the DOT. So we dumped it in there, which on a side note, it's free to use. They'll give you an academic license. If you want to reach out to me, I can make arrangements for you to have access to it. But anyways, one of the nice things about the software package is you create this model, and not only you move the model like any kind of 3D rendering, but if you click on the model, as it's demonstrated in this lower picture, all of the pictures that were used to create that point in the model get blown up. So it's kind of like an image capturing, image management system too, where even if you can't see or if the model is distorted a little bit, you can bring up all 15 or so pictures that was used to create it and then look at those individual pictures for defects. Okay, go ahead and hit the next slide. Okay, so again, the two different methods. I kind of described the first one where we created a 3D model and then we trained Dhaval, who was our subject matter expert on the software. So, and then, he did not look at the building. I flew everything. I got all the data and then, created the models and put them in his office and then trained him on how to use the software and had him move around the software and look at it and basically identify all of the various different defects that he could find. Then later, and then we categorized that and documented it. Then after that, we took him out to the actual roof and had him walk up and down, up and down, up and down to be able to actually, you know, look at all the inspections following the traditional method and then record it that way. And then we did a comparison in terms of what could be seen with the drone software and drone technique versus the traditional method. Dhaval, you want to take it from here?
Sure. Thank you, Joe. So, like Joe mentioned here, we did 2 different types of inspections. The first one was a 3D model, and that was done first to avoid any favoritism when we do an in-person inspection. And as you can see, this is just a comparison between the inspection time and some of the roof details. One thing that you're going to note here is that the inspection time and the drone flight time was much more greater than the in-person inspection, because it does take time to set up the drone and to model it, and then to go back to the office and look at the pictures and look at some of the defects. So it might be wise to do multiple roofs at one time to avoid some of that time that it takes to set up and get multiple roofs, or as many roofs as possible. Comparing the results between the 3D model and the in-person inspection, as you can see, the different criteria that are shown here, the main things that we were looking for are the typical surface defects that you might find on any roof membrane systems, such as blisters, any open laps, alligatoring, punctures, wrinkles, and all those different kind of things. And very interesting to note is that the cluster right here in the middle had a less than 20% margin error, which means, or what that shows is that the number of defects that we found for this criteria between the 3D model and in-person were very close. And these were open laps, alligatoring, punctures, and wrinkles, and the total damage flashings for your parapet wall. Some of the defects, such as blisters and the damage around your penetrations, were a little bit tough to see because, again, those were cross-section defects. So coming back to some of the defects, these are the pictures of some of the drone photography. The first one is the open lap, where the membrane kind of comes off from the membrane underneath it. There's the alligatoring, kind of gives that alligator skin-like look, and then the damage at the edges. So comparing all these results, we were able to conclude that UAS is very efficient for capturing some of the top view defects, any defects on the surface of the membrane, such as your open laps or alligatoring, punctures, and wrinkles. However, if you want to see some of the defects on the section view, such as some of the blisters or the penetration damage, this study was not able to capture that. In that sense, we might need a better photography or a high resolution imaging in order to capture some of that details. One other aspect in the roofing industry is safety, because these roofs are high up in the elevation. And one of the advantages of our drone usage for inspections could be safety, because especially on some of the steep slope roofing systems, and some of the disadvantages is, like Joe mentioned before, the roofing inspector, which was myself in this case, had to learn how to use the software. And really the drone pilot also has to have some knowledge of some of the roofing elements to capture the right imagery and to capture some of the right pictures. With that, this concludes our presentation. And again, thank you for your time, for listening. If you have any questions on this study or would like to know more, feel free to reach out to either Dr. Burgett or myself. Thank you.